Hey guys, what's up? My name is Rachel and welcome back to my channel, Reading with Remy. So today I'm going to be filming my June/July wrap-up. Hopefully I'll actually get this up in a timely manner because then relevant for once. So yeah, basically I'm just gonna quickly run through everything that I read in June and July, just give you my brief thoughts, my rating, and which month I actually read it in. So yeah, without further ado, we're just gonna crack into it. These aren't actually in the order I read them, but I do have June and July separated, so. The first book that I'm going to talk about is The Anti-Virginity Pact by Katie Weismer. I read this in June. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book, but there were a lot of problems that I had with it, which just breaks my heart because I love Katie as a person. I love her channel. I love to watch her content. I enjoyed seeing her journey through writing this book and publishing it, and just the joy and the heart that she put into it was really endearing. But there were a lot of issues that I have with this book. The pacing felt off. It just seemed like too much was going on. She was trying to cover too many topics at some points. But overall, I did really enjoy the story. I liked the characters. I thought the main character was really fun. I loved the anxiety representation in this. The way that she wrote the main character and the anxiety that the main character deals with was just really spot on and very powerful. So definitely enjoyed that part of it. I thought the boy in this was really cute too. The romance was sweet, but there were some pacing issues and there was a lot going on. So that's why I got 4 instead of 5. But for a debut novel, this was really good. And for self-published, even better. So I really enjoyed this and I would definitely recommend it too. Another book that I read in June is actually a graphic novel, and that is Fence Volume 1 by C.S. Pacat. I was actually recommended this by Robbie from And His Nose Stuck in a Book. I asked him what his favorite graphic novels were and he recommended the series. I actually really enjoyed this. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars just because it was a little slow getting to the climax and the plot and why our protagonist was doing what he was doing. Kind of diddled around for a little bit. I did like all of the fencing matches. I thought they were really cool and just a different concept. So it was interesting to see that in graphic novel format, which is kind of cool. So I really loved the art style. I definitely want to continue this series. The next book that I read in June was Beach Read by Emily Henry. I got this from Book of the Month, obviously, Book of the Month. And it was actually the first book of the month that I've read, even though I've been getting Book of the Month for a while. I have a problem. But anyway, this is a really cute romance contemporary. It also deals with a lot of hard-hitting subjects. I really enjoyed this, and it's set in Michigan, which is where I was born, so that was kind of cool to see that. Yeah, it was just a really cute, fun contemporary. I liked the romance, although it was really frustrating at points because there was a lot of miscommunication, which is one of my least favorite tropes in contemporary. Nothing infuriates me more than when a conflict could be easily resolved if they just talked to each other. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Next book that I read in June is The Raven King, book 4 in the Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. I did it. I finally finished the Raven Cycle. I'm so proud of myself. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this series. I loved how it wrapped everything up really nicely, the conflict resolution. The only thing that bothered me a little bit was the ending seemed very anticlimactic. There were no stakes, and that kind of bugged me, but other than that, I really loved the way this was wrapped up. I enjoyed the story. If you don't know what the series is about, it's kind of like a paranormal urban fantasy type thing, dealing with ley lines and a deceased king, that if you are the one to wake him, he will grant you a wish. So that's basically the premise. Either way, I really enjoyed the series, definitely would recommend. And then I'm going to talk about a book that I listened to the audiobook on Scribd, so I don't have a physical copy, and that is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't like it as much as I liked The Poet X, but I did still really enjoy it. So, yeah. I feel like most people know what this is about. It's been really popular on BookTube lately, so I'm not really going to give a synopsis. The thing that really drew me to me though was that it was written in verse, and I love things that are written in verse, so that's why I picked it up. The first book that I read in June, which ironically I'm going to talk about it last for June, who cares, is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. As previously mentioned, I super enjoyed this book. I liked it more than Clap When You Land, and it kind of set me off on a streak of reading Elizabeth Acevedo, which I say that, but I still haven't finished When the Fire on High. But that's okay, because I own it and I'm gonna read it. But this is a really awesome book. It's written in verse. Obviously I give this 5 out of 5 stars if I didn't already say that. And it just is a super powerful story about self-empowerment and not letting people sexualize you and just not letting people tell you what you can't do, stuff like that. I really enjoyed this book. Would definitely recommend if you have not read it. I mean, it won 3 awards. What else can you say? Now moving into July. The first book that I read in July was The Last Command by Timothy Zahn. This is the third and final book in the Thrawn trilogy. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, not surprised. I love this series. I cannot tell you how much I love this series. You know it's impressive when me, the person who never finishes a series, actually finishes an entire trilogy in the same year. That's pretty impressive for me. So obviously I really enjoyed this. I did this on audio because I do not physically read mass markets. They're just like the only way these are sold right now, because these are a part of the old Star Wars canon. So Disney threw this canon out when they created The Force Awakens, which breaks my heart because these are so much better. This is such a better look at what happens after The Return of the Jedi than The Force Awakens. Sorry, it just is. But I really loved this story. The villain in this is amazing. Like, a brilliantly written villain, and the ending was so satisfying. So definitely, if you like Star Wars, please read these, please. And I would recommend the audiobooks, they were really fun. I also read Break the Fall by Jennifer Icopelli in July, and I gave this 4 stars. This is a book that I was super anticipating. They had art drops for these last year at YALLFest, and I didn't get one because I missed it. Some part of me thought, oh, there'll be some if I don't go to the drop right away. Always go to the drop right away. Just always go to the drop right away. But that's okay because I like this cover better, so it worked out in the end. But this is a story about a group of Olympic gymnasts, and they make the team, but as soon as they make the team, there's a giant scandal that is revealed where the coach has committed this awful crime, and so they no longer have their coach, and it kind of disrupts the entire team dynamic, and it's all about them coming back from that to win Olympic gold. So I loved it because I love Olympic gymnastics, or really just any gymnastics. I don't know why, but I'm fascinated by it. I kind of wish I could be a gymnast, but let's be real, I don't flip like that. I just don't. I break too easily for that sport anyway. But as an enthusiast, this was really fun. I loved the way the author wrote the routines. It was very descriptive, and you could actually, it felt like you were watching a routine, which I thought was really cool. So definitely would recommend if you like gymnastics. I also read Death Note Volume 1. These are the black editions, so it was technically volumes 1 and 2. If you don't know what Death Note is, it's basically about a teenage boy who finds a death note, which is a book that when he writes someone's name in it, they will die. And basically it's just about him and the demon who dropped the death note and all the insanity that ensues from a teenage boy having that kind of power. So I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it, but there were parts that were just really frustrating to me. The next book that I'm going to talk about is another one that I'm pretty proud of because it was in my series that I need to finish. I have not finished this series, but I'm making progress, and that's what is important, especially with this chunker. So, and that is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book in the Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy by Sarah J. Maas. It's a high fae story. I don't really know how to describe it because the first one is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and then this one is like a Persephone retelling. So she kind of twists different fairy tales or mythology like in each different book, but they're not companion books, they're a sequential series. It's complicated. It's Sarah J. Maas. What did you expect? I enjoyed this. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I liked it better than the first one, which I'm pretty sure when I read the first one I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but now if I read it, like when I think about it next to this one, no, it's more like a 3.5. This one is just a lot more. Okay, let's just like stop beating around the bush. The reason why this got a higher rating in my mind and why I like it more is because Rysand. I do not go for the bad boy normally. I go for like the boy next door, the Tamlin. The Tamlin of A Court of Thorns and Roses, not the Tamlin of this book. Something happened to him and it was not pretty. Let's just say that. Like, I don't understand what happened to Tamlin, but no. Rysand's where it's at. He's just so brooding and wonderful and dark and handsome and ugh. And their banter, his banter with Feyre is another reason why I think I like this so much, because that's just the kind of like relationship that like I know and see. So yeah, just all the feels. I cannot wait to see what happens in the next. The next book that I'm going to talk about is a reread. For me, I don't normally do rereads except for the Harry Potter series. So this is actually the first book that I know of that has been a reread outside of that, and that is The Vampire Academy by Richelle Mead. I read these a while ago. This follows our main character, Rose. She's a Dampier, and they're basically the guardians of vampires that are known as Moroi. And there are also bad vampires in this series that are called Strigoi. And it's basically all about her and her relationship with her best friend Alyssa, who is a Moroi, and they have a bond, and basically people are trying to get a hold of Alyssa because she has a special power. So that's basically the conflict throughout this series. Everyone's after Alyssa because she is who she is. Yeah, and it's all about Rose trying to protect that. There is like a steamy forbidden love in this as well, with a Russian named Dmitri who's very attractive. The romance in this is kind of basically the draw to this series, if we're being real here, because throughout the series it escalates and is like kind of the driving force of everything Rose does. I gave this reread 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's a nostalgic thing, but when you reread it, it's definitely very high school, and I'm not really there anymore, so that's why I didn't get a full 5. But yeah, I only read the first 4 the first time I read this, and there are 6 books in the series, so that's kind of why I'm working through this reread, so that eventually I can read 5 and 6 for the first time. So, and I'm also buddy reading this with my sister, because she has read these, and we each have our own set of them. That's how much we like them. So yeah, that was fun. The last physical book that I'm going to talk about is Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. I finally finished this series, what is released anyway. The 4th volume is coming. I know you can read it online because it's a webcomic, but I'm waiting for the physical because I want them all on my shelf. But yeah, if you don't know what this is about, these are about Nick and Charlie. They are 2 boys who go to an all-boy prep school, and they meet in homeroom, or basically the equivalent of homeroom, and a friendship that turns into a romance ensues. Charlie is already out, and like out in his school as gay, and Nick is presumed straight, but obviously since a romance ensues, we know that's not true. So yeah, these are just really cute, super fun. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it, super cute, really fun. So the last 2 books that I'm going to talk about for July are things that I read on Scribd, and they're both written in verse. And the first one is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was definitely unique and very interesting. It's about a boy who has decided he is going to shoot someone, and when he gets in the elevator at his apartment building to go down to the floor, like to go out and shoot the guy, people from his past keep showing up that kind of make him realize how serious what he's about to do is and what the repercussions that it can have. Definitely a unique concept. It was very interesting. I definitely think it's a story that needs to be told. And the last one that I finished in July is Inward by Young Pueblo. It's a poetry collection, but it also has like essays and stuff like that. It's not just strictly told in verse. I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of a look at, it deals a lot with like your mental standing and basically what you can overdo to overcome your mental standing and improve the world through being a better person and that kind of thing. It was very almost like spiritual, which is just kind of weird. I wasn't expecting that. I did enjoy it. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars, probably because it was so different. There were parts of it that I was really behind, and other parts of it that I was like, wow, you're trying way too hard to convert someone to a certain type of spiritual thought, I suppose, like a school of spirituality that I just wasn't on board with. So it was kind of, it was just weird. I don't even know how to say anything other than it was just weird. But it wasn't bad. Like, some of his poems were really great. So yeah, that's it for this video. That's everything that I read in June and July. If you've read any of those books and have different thoughts, definitely let me know in the comments. I would love to discuss them with you. So that's it for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in another video soon.